some mysteries defy logic and remain unanswered, even decades later. Today, we're going to explore a few cases of disappearances that continue to leave investigators and experts completely perplexed. The vanishing of Flight 19 on December 5, 1945. 5 U.S. Navy Avenger torpedo bombers, collectively known as Flight 9, took off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for a routine training exercise over the Atlantic, commanded by the experienced Lieutenant Charles Taylor. The 14 airmen were supposed to fly a simple triangular route, but something went terribly wrong. Hours into the flight, radio communications revealed that the pilots were disoriented, their compasses malfunctioning. Taylor was heard saying, "Both my compasses are out, and I am trying to find Fort Lauderdale. I am sure I'm in the Keys, but I don't know how far down." Despite clear weather at the start, conditions deteriorated and the last transmissions from Flight 19 grew faint and garbled. They were never heard from again. The mystery deepened when a Martin Mariner flying boat sent out with 13 crewmen to search for the missing planes also vanished without a trace. A massive air and sea search found nothing, no wreckage, no oil slicks, no survivors. Did they run out of fuel and crash into the violent sea? Were they victims of a sudden, catastrophic weather event? The disappearance of Flight 19 became one of the cornerstone legends of the Bermuda Triangle, a chilling reminder of how even the most experienced pilots can be swallowed by the unknown. The Sodder children on Christmas Eve, 1945, in Fayetteville, West Virginia. A fire ravaged the home of George and Jenny Sodder. Of their 10 children, 9 were home that night. George, Jenny, and 4 of the children managed to escape the inferno, but the other 5, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Ginny, and Betty, were believed to have perished in the blaze. However, when the fire was extinguished, no human remains were ever found in the ashes. The tragedy quickly spiraled into a bizarre mystery. George Sodder tried to rescue the children using his work ladder, but it was inexplicably missing from its usual spot. His trucks, which he could have used to climb to the second-floor windows, mysteriously wouldn't start. The phone line to the house was found to have been cut. The Sodders began to believe their children had been kidnapped, possibly by someone with a grudge against their family, and the fire was set to cover up the crime. For the rest of their lives, they maintained that their children were still alive. They put up a billboard along Route 16 with photos of the 5 children and a reward for information, which remained for over 30 years. In 1967, they received a photo in the mail of a young man who bore a striking resemblance to their son Louis, with a cryptic note on the back. Was it a cruel hoax or a clue? To this day, the fate of the Sodder children remains one of America's most heart-wrenching unsolved mysteries. The disappearance of Amelia Earhart in 1937, pioneering aviator Amelia Earhart set out to become the first woman to circumnavigate the globe. Alongside her navigator, Fred Noonan, she had successfully completed over 22,000 miles of the journey. On July 2, they embarked on one of the final, most challenging legs of their flight, a 2,556-mile trip from New Guinea to Holland Island, a tiny speck of land in the Pacific Ocean. As they neared the island, Earhart radioed the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca, stationed nearby to guide her. Her last transmissions were increasingly desperate. "We must be on you, but cannot see you," she reported, her voice strained with static. "Gas is running low." Then, silence. Earhart, Noonan, and their twin-engine Lockheed Electra vanished. The U.S. government launched the most extensive and expensive sea search in history at the time, but not a single piece of the plane was found. The official theory is that they ran out of fuel, crashed into the ocean, and sank. Yet, other theories persist. Did they land on another island, like Gardner Island, now Nikomaroro, and live as castaways? Some have even speculated they were captured by the Japanese, despite countless expeditions and the discovery of artifacts that could potentially be linked to them. No definitive proof has ever surfaced, leaving Earhart's final flight an enduring enigma. The crew of the Mary Celeste, the case of the Mary Celeste, is the quintessential ghost ship story. In December 1872, the brigantine was discovered adrift and deserted in the Atlantic Ocean somewhere off the Azores Islands. The ship was in perfectly seaworthy condition. Its sails were partially set, and the cargo of denatured alcohol was untouched. The crew's personal belongings were still in their quarters, and a 6-month supply of food and water was on board. Everything seemed normal, except for one glaring fact. The entire crew of 10, including Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife, and their 2-year-old daughter, was gone. The only lifeboat was missing, suggesting they had abandoned ship in a hurry. But why? There were no signs of a struggle or foul play. One theory suggests that fumes from the alcohol cargo may have created a fear of an imminent explosion, causing the captain to order everyone into the lifeboat as a precaution. They may have intended to trail the ship at a safe distance with a tow line, but a sudden squall could have separated them, leaving them lost at sea. Another idea points to a sick wake or a waterspout. Whatever happened, the crew of the Mary Celeste vanished into thin air, leaving behind an eerie, silent vessel that has puzzled historians and mariners for over 150 years. The Lost Colony of Roanoke in 1587. A group of more than 100 English men, women, and children settled on Roanoke Island, off the coast of modern-day North Carolina. Led by Governor John White, they established the first English settlement in the New World. Shortly after their arrival, White sailed back to England to gather more supplies. However, his return was delayed for 3 years due to a naval war with Spain. When he finally made it back to Roanoke in 1590, he found the colony completely deserted. There were no bodies, no signs of a battle, and no indication of what had transpired. The only clue left behind was the word Croatoan carved into a wooden post of the fort's palisade, and the letters Crow carved into a nearby tree. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, now Hatteras Island, and the Native American tribe that lived there. White intended to sail to the island to investigate, but was prevented by a storm. Did the colonists willingly move to Croatoan Island and assimilate with the local tribe? Did they fall victim to disease or starvation? Or were they attacked and killed by other, less friendly tribes? For over 400 years, the fate of the lost colony has remained one of America's oldest and most profound historical mysteries. The disappearance of D.B. Cooper. On November 24, 1971, a man identified as Dan D. Cooper hijacked a Northwest Orient Airlines flight from Portland to Seattle, calm and polite. He passed a note to a flight attendant, claiming he had a bomb in his briefcase and demanded $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes. Once his demands were met upon landing in Seattle, he released the passengers. He then ordered the pilots to take off again, flying towards Mexico City. Somewhere over the rugged, forested terrain of southwestern Washington, Cooper did the unthinkable. He lowered the aft staircase of the Boeing 727 and parachuted into the stormy night with the ransom money. He was never seen or heard from again. An extensive manhunt turned up no trace of Cooper or his parachute. The only piece of evidence ever found was in 1980, when a young boy discovered a rotting bundle of $20 bills totaling $5,800 on the banks of the Columbia River bills that were confirmed to be part of Cooper's ransom. Did he survive the jump? Did he die on impact or perish in the wilderness? Or did he pull off the perfect crime and escape to live a new life? D.B. Cooper became a folk hero, an audacious daredevil who beat the system and vanished into legend.